Cartoon Man Files. Main file number 621083. Date July 10th, 2020. Subject: Abandoned Orlando Resort. These files are a summary of sightings and attacks related to the infamous serial killer known as the Cartoon Man. The accounts within have been obtained entirely through eyewitness testimony and traditional evidence collection. This interview comes from 14-year-old Jacob Taylor.
Urban exploration is very fun. In fact, it's probably one of my favorite things to do in the entire world. The reason is that when you explore an area previously forgotten about by society, you never are too sure what's going to happen. Safety is not guaranteed. In this modern world that we live in, where everyone just seems to sit around inside their house all the time, it can provide a much-needed escape. The COVID-19 pandemic was bad for a lot of activities. Movies, conventions, concerts, they've all been pretty much put on hold for an undisclosed amount of time. However, urban exploration has exploded. So many places went out of business, and I had a lot of time on my hands to check them all out. That was when I found myself in Orlando, Florida, near Disney World. My parents decided to bring us to the area because they knew it wasn't too busy at the time. Just down the street from where we were staying, there was this massive abandoned resort. It was a sprawling, overgrown yellow structure with almost a castle-type architecture. It had these incredible courtyards, fountains, and seemed like it was about 5 years from being totally reclaimed by nature. It was the perfect place to explore. My parents said they wanted to go to the spa one of the days we were there, so my brother and I claimed we would just go hang out at the pool. That was my chance, though. We decided to walk down the street and go check out that abandoned resort off the side of the road. At first, my brother was really scared, but when he saw how excited I was, he decided to suck it up and at least pretend like he was enjoying himself. When we got out onto the main road, though, I was immediately creeped out. We had visited the area tons of times years in the past, and we had taken walks a lot of times as well. But previous to the pandemic, there were tons of cars. This time, it was a ghost town. Up ahead a little bit on the left, we passed by this giant Ferris wheel that was strangely running without a single person on it. This huge carny-looking guy who was running the ride gazed over at us from inside the gates of the Ferris wheel. He smiled this big toothless smile and waved ominously, causing us to pick up the pace. Eventually we got up to this little cluster of trees and bushes, which were connected to the resort. Forcing our way through them, we gazed upon an old crumbling gazebo beside an emptied-out pool. It was filled with leaves and old pool chairs. Thinking it looked like a very fun place to play, my brother jumped in, started kicking the chairs around. He was making a ton of noise, which kind of annoyed me, but I couldn't really get him to stop. He was just having too much fun in there. That's when I noticed a little tent and fireplace up on one of the second-floor balconies. It suddenly hit me that I may have gotten us into a more dangerous activity than I'd anticipated. At that moment, the tent unzipped and a figure slowly crawled out. I also noticed movement from some of the bushes and trees that surrounded the pool. Then my brother came across a duffel bag inside the pool. He unzipped it, revealing Ziploc bags full of shiny metal tools, bandages, and other surgical equipment. I also noticed that the area he was standing on was stained red. Then the figures from the surrounding trees and bushes began to reveal themselves. Each of them had a face more horrifying than the last, all with different unique features sewn onto their heads. One had these strange, huge, bulging eyes, and another had these fleshy, floppy ears hanging from his head. The figure up on the balcony walked out to the edge and stared down at me. He had a snout attached to his face and wore these red Mickey Mouse shorts. Breathing heavily, he looked down at us and chuckled under his breath. My brother ran out of the pool and hugged me tight as I looked around at the approaching figures, realizing there wasn't anywhere to go. I started to scream for help, but no one seemed to answer. Panic set in. Suddenly, the man from the Ferris wheel busted through the tree line. He had this bundle of burning sage in one hand and a crucifix in the other. The deformed entities immediately turned their attention to him as he screamed for us to run.
Go!
My brother and I tore out of there and busted through the tree line. As we ran back to our hotel, we heard the screams of the fighting begin. I immediately told our parents what had happened and contacted the police shortly after. Although we never did hear about what happened to the carny, or that strange deformed army of cartoon-looking freaks. When detectives arrived on the scene, they found evidence of a struggle, blood, and a large knife. However, none of the camping equipment or surgical tools were recovered, and the mysterious carny had also disappeared. Due to the young age of Jacob's brother Paul, this is the only eyewitness testimony we have for this case.